financial ratio, meaning to say you kick in $1, they're going to kick, it's going to result in 4 more being spent on fiber being put in the community. That's the minimum. They actually say 14-to-1 ratio regionally, by which they mean our neighbors. So Norfolk might do as poorly, if you want, as only 4-to-1, which is, I would submit to you, a very good deal. But we could be up to 14-to-1, and it could be our neighbors who are at 4-to-1. Regionally, they mean in the area, and I think anything in the area ultimately is good for everyone in the area. So that's the contract promise in writing. There is some amount of the money that could be refundable. With all due respect, that won't be this council. It might not be the next council. It could be the council after that. But at some point in the future, a Norfolk County Council will get to decide whether it will take the refundable portion, which is over $200,000, back as a dividend, as a return, call it what you will, or they will choose to reinvest it to beget yet more fiber infrastructure in the rural areas. So that's a positive outcome one way or the other in the future, either more infrastructure or money back. At any rate, at the moment, the challenge is, of course, that we 60% or 3/5 of the money is due September 15th. We have paid $50,000 to date. That 60% for us is just a titch over $300,000, meaning this is just over $250,000 that are coming due. The treasurer has looked over the financial component, and ultimately this would have to come out of well, we're trying to pay it off the levy, but there's money in a reserve that would effectively do that. I don't want to belabor the point. Happy to answer your questions, but now is the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I think we're all familiar with our commitment here. Councillor Brunton?
Yes, Mayor Luke, thank you. Through you to David real quick. David, on page 248,
yes, sir.
You identify in here, in no particular order, Execulink, Telecom Inc., Silo West, Wireless, sorry, and ExploreNet.
Correct.
But then you come down a little further and say Eastlink, Bell Canada, and Hydro One. So they're all in the program now, or they could be?
Sir, at time of writing, which is 5-6 days ago now, the first three, Execulink, Silo, and ExploreNet, are fully approved to participate. No qualifications, no asterisks. The other three, conditionally qualified means there were some problems with their sort of tender documents, if you will. That's Eastlink, Bell Canada, and Hydro One. They had to provide more information, but my understanding informally from SWIFT is they anticipate that being it's hard to conceive of Bell Canada not at some point perfecting its bid, for instance. So we anticipate there being 6 local providers who fully qualify, but if any of those 3 don't come through, there are 3 that are already fully in the program. So it's going to be something between 3 and 6.
Okay, so if I'm clear here, when the work would start, any 6 of these could possibly be doing the work. Am I correct? Is that, or provide the service, if you want to call it that?
All of them. We do know that at some point, at least one of them will be successful, or all 6, or something in between, but yes.
So our money only will pay, it doesn't provide the service per se, it provides to put the fiber optics in. Is that the way I look at it?
Really, the notion of SWIFT is that it's 90 million from the feds, 90 million from the province, 20 million from municipalities, of which we'd be about 500,000, and that money is used to sort of provide an incentive or subsidize, use whatever term you want, service providers to sort of go that last mile and to go into areas where where there's just not enough population demand for them to have a business case without some sort of subsidy, and with this money, and then the capacity to offer service to those who are unserved now, suddenly they can make a go of it, and that's the notion in a nutshell.
So that's why I say our rural people could at some point maybe be paying a bill to Bell. Exactly.
Or any of the other 5. Yes, sir.
And just on the next page, or down the paragraph, says $90 from each of the feds and the provincial. I think it's a little more.
The word million sort of, this, I apologize, this wasn't the final version that got sent to the printer inadvertently. This was the second draft, and at any rate, that's my bad.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, over the last couple of weeks, I've had a few rural business farmers who've called with respect to not having capacity with proper internet hookup, and They're asking me when when we're going to be breaking ground to install this fiber optic in the.
If I can answer that, from our meetings, both Western and Eastern, we had good presentation from the SWIFT folks, and the RFP will be issued in November.
First
And
round.
pardon?
First round. of
First round,
RFPs.
pardon me, in November, and it's my understanding that next spring there will be some, is hopeful next
Well, they're
spring,
hoping for winter construction.
or maybe some winter. But I had heard, hopefully right at the break of spring, there will be some construction going. And so we'd all want it sooner, but it's better to have something coming than nothing at all. So, and any other questions to the county manager? It's a good question. So it's coming. The other thing is, of course, on Schedule A, you don't have to turn to it, but as you can see, of the 15 municipal partners, we are the second lowest in our contribution, just behind Brant of the 15. So, it's there's some paying a lot more, and I know they're bigger municipalities, but I think it's good stuff. Moved by Columbus, seconded by Height, that the report, CM 1704 SWIFT funding and contract particulars be received as information at the county. Council instruct the county treasurer and the mayor to sign the proposed municipal capital agreement between SWIFT and the Corporation of Norfolk County. And further, that county council direct the county treasurer to immediately pay the funds from the tax levy in the amount of $253,259. That represents 60% of our contribution to the SWIFT project, less payments of $50,000, with a further 20% to be budgeted and payable by December the 31st, 2018, and the final 20% to be budgeted and paid by December the 31st of 2019. Any discussion? Those in favor? That's carried, and that will tidy up things for SWIFT. Move right on, please, to page 267. This is staff report 17-57. These are tender results. Exterior Heritage Restoration, Norfolk Arts Center. Is that you?
That's Lee.
Lee, sorry, yeah. Lee, go ahead.
Through the mayor to council. Before you is the report for the tender results for the exterior for the Heritage Restoration for the Norfolk Arts Center. And I'm going to do something that I very rarely do. I'm going to say that since this report has been written, additional information has come to light, and I'm going to be asking for a different recommendation than what's actually contained in this piece of paper.
Okay.
We've had some things that have come up sort of in the last week or so, and as a result of that, staff are going to be recommending that the bid be canceled, the scope be slightly changed, and that it be reissued. We have confirmed with Parks Canada that there is that the grant extension cannot go past March 31st, 2018. They lose their pool of funding. So we are going to reissue this tender with a revised scope of work to maximize the amount of funds that we can possibly get from Parks Canada and still stay within the budget that council had allocated for us. There will be another round of funding that may be coming out in the future in 2018 that we will recommend be applied for. Although it's only up to a contribution of $100,000, we still think that we'll have a very good case at obtaining that. But we believe that that's the best way to maximize the funding that's available, deal with some of the irregularities that occurred in the tendering process, and still ensure that we take advantage of as much money as we can possibly get from the Parks Canada. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Black and Councillor Height.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. And question through you to Lee. And I'm just wondering, I know we've had sort of the same discussion before about what exactly is in the tender, what are the deliverables, what are we asking for, what's the quality. And I'm wondering if when the RFPs went out, or the tenders or whatever, it came back in, was it quality stuff that's being provided, like, were the windows, maybe more expensive? Could we get them a little cheaper? Were the eaves troughs copper, or were they aluminum, or things like that? I just wondered if we could save some money that way.
Through the mayor to council, while the building is lovely, it does come with a cost to restore it with its historic significance. So while, yes, we could do a whole renovation on the building and it will look brand new, it will lose a lot of the character that it's currently valued for. The grant, part of the grant is to restore heritage features so that recognizing that restoring things to a heritage look does cost more. That was why the grants were being provided, was to ensure that that look continued.
Okay, well, and I do agree with that because I think it's federally designated, is it not? I think it's Canadian designation on it, so,
I believe you were correct.
yeah, I think it should be. So, I would move, do you have a mover for this?
Yes, I do have a motion moved and seconded.
I will move it if you don't have one.
I do, but is there any
Or I'll
other,
second it if you don't have
any
one.
other questions I'm sorry, Councillor Height, yeah, go to my list, thank
Don't
you.
worry, Mayor, we're all shell-shocked, but I'll make this quick. I'm looking at this report, and I almost fell out of my chair when I saw it, $736,000. Is that building even worth that much money? Period?
Through the mayor to council, I'm not sure that I want to put a numeric value on a heritage feature.
The art is priceless.
It's
The
priceless.
art is mobile, and sometimes I know in our strategic plan, it calls for a business case, Mr. CAO, and to dump $800,000 into a building that's worth $475, when we have another museum that might house an art collection, it might have been worth a look at. There's a lot of money here dropping into a building that might get this value out of it.
Through the mayor to council, that is one of the reasons that we're looking at reducing, that's why the report before you hasn't recommended that we amend the budget. That's why we're recommending that we go out and we tender, maximize the amount of funding that we can get to get the best bang for our buck to get it done in that period of time. But we need to revise the tender in order to do that.
It'll come back to us so we can do some more discussion. Councillor Columbus has moved, Councillor Oliver has seconded that report. PW 17-57 tender results. Exterior Heritage Restoration Norfolk Arts Centre be received as information, and that the bid be cancelled and that the tender be reissued with a revised scope of work. Councillor Columbus, you okay with that? Councillor Oliver, you have the change. Any discussion on the motion? If not, those in favor? Thank you. I imagine there will be some more discussion when that comes back. I have two motions, and I'll send you on your way. Yes,
I just want to ask you and the county manager, with the remaining in-camera issues, that you feel confident that if we delay them for 2 weeks, that we are going to be okay without a problem?
well, I can only give you my perspective. Nobody knows if somebody comes along tomorrow and does something that you don't see coming, but personally, I'm comfortable with 2 more weeks. Who knows? It's a hard question to answer.
Yes.
Well, I guess I'm just saying that I hope 2-week delay in dealing with those reports doesn't cause a problem. So I'm wondering, personally, I've read the report. I don't know if it takes a lot of time to deal with it. I don't know what the rest of the council feels.
Well, I can ask the rest of the council. I know staff that was here was sent on their way. I figure we're into at least an hour's discussion, at least.
Okay, well, whatever council's wish.
Well,
You can call an emergency meeting if something.
okay.
Maybe you could tell them.
I guess if something comes up, we can call an emergency meeting. Okay. Moved by Councillor Black and seconded by Councillor Oliver that bylaw 2017-87 through bylaw 2017-91 inclusive and bylaw 33Z 2017, 32Z 2017 be passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and fixed with the corporate seal. Discussion? Those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Columbus and seconded by Councillor Black that bylaw 2017-92, this is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, Norfolk County be passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and affixed with the corporate seal. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. That concludes and ends our meeting this evening. Again, an early start. Thank you for all your work.
Very
Those are ones we didn't deal with.
Oh, yeah, well.
Well, you
I'll
read
send
through
an
them, you
email
go
either
through
way.
them. Somebody. Let's get the checkbook out.
This is a bunch of emails. Who could have not asked a lot of stupid questions about unimportant things earlier on. We had an extra